Well, when I said we were going to shock the hockey world, I wanted them to understand as a coach that I actually believe in them.
The key player was Jacques Demers. He's always make us believe that this year we're going to win the Stanley Cup. This year it's going to be our year.
When a coach believes in his players and you treat them with respect, well, eventually they're going to be able to win the big game for you.
Oh, ben!
Hey!
Salut, mon coach!
Good!
When you came in with Montreal Canadiens and you came in the room and said that we were going to shock the world,
Yeah,
hockey world,
yeah.
you were right.
Their 10th overtime win in a row.
To win 10 overtime games? That's crazy.
Great save by Ball.
You know you're in their head. And I went like, you're not scoring here today.
There's the illegal stick, Harry. And there's no excuse for that.
Harry Fraser told me he didn't have to measure. All he had to do was look.
Scores!
They were a team of destiny.
The 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
25 ans.
Wait, wait.
25 years, huh, coach?
And said that we were going to shock the world.
25 years. We still make history.
It was a season of change. In the spring of 1992, the Canadiens were beat by Boston in the second round of the playoffs for a third straight year. The Habs finally decided to let go Pat Burns to Toronto, which was a big move because nobody expected that.
I would like to introduce you today, the new coach of the Montreal Canadiens, Mr. Jacques Demers.
When Jacques came in, nobody knew him. We knew that he was a coach in the NHL, that he was French, Canadian, but beside that, we didn't really know who he was.
I like his style. I think he brings some life everywhere he's been. He is an emotional coach, and he will continue to be an emotional coach, I'm sure. I have nothing wrong with that.
One of the first meeting, Jacques told us that we're going to shock the hockey world. He told us that we were going to shock the hockey world.
We were going to shock the hockey world.
Most of the players that were part of that conversation kind of looked around and started laughing a little bit.
So hearing that, at the beginning of the season, he was a new coach. We knew how positive he was, and we said, okay, he wants us to believe that.
And everybody looked at each other like, what does it mean? Like, because Jacques says, you know what, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. The first meeting of the year. You know, that was not only making the playoff, that was like, no, we're going to win the Stanley Cup.
We felt that if we have that much confidence from our coach, maybe we are a strong team and a good team.
The guys played well all year, and we had over 100 points or something like this, but for some reason, I mean, I wasn't playing at the level that I should have.
Nylander alone on Waugh, he scores!
Patrick was not at his best the whole year. There was a time he was struggling, so we went to the second goalie.
In January, a company that was selling hockey cards started a promotional campaign, and one day, to everybody's surprise, there were big boards all over the city saying "Échange roi," which means trade roi. Le Journal de Montréal had the brilliant idea to conduct a survey asking people, would you trade Patrick Roy? 57% of the people said yes.
I was playing so poorly, and then all of a sudden, I mean, the people started to say, you know what, let's trade him, and then it turned, it just went totally the opposite. It should have gone, and it was a tough moment.
He was having a tough time, Patrick, and the fans booed him at the skills competition.
To win. 3 in. Much to the dismay of Montreal fans. They wanted to see 15 shots, no goals on their goaltender.
It was tough. It was tough, but I mean, it was, I would say probably using it as a wake-up call and say, listen, you got to play better. You got to find a way.
And by the time the season ended, he was back to being Patrick Roy.
Pietro gave the puck away. Butler's shot. Another fine save by Roy. Kicked it out again and stopped it a third time.
I still show people this.
Oh, good. Good.
What is that? That's the card that Jacques give it to us. Before the playoff, Jacques give us a little card with 3 things, if I remember right.
I still have it. We had to keep it with us at all time.
And it was another way to just have the guys focus on being ready.
Jacques did a lot of things just to make you focus, you know, think about it and really commit. Today with time, I realized that's the message that he was trying to send us.
Lights are up. They're excited about the playoffs and especially about the fact they open against arch rivals, the Montreal Canadiens.
At the end of the year, I think we lost 5 or 6 last game in the season. It's not the way you want to go in the playoff, you know. You want to build momentum before the playoff, and but I think the best thing for a team that was to face the Quebec Nordique.
The rivalry between the Canadiens and the Nordiques was bigger than the game itself.
I don't think you can believe it. Nobody outside of Montreal or Quebec can understand. Before the Nordiques came in the league, I happened to like Quebec City. And after that, everything became personal. You know, I get to Quebec City and people were yelling at me. Some would spit in my back. It was not a nice rivalry.
It was real intense. I mean, I hadn't seen anything like it. You knew a couple days before we played each other, the city was getting revved up, and you were hyped. And you know, there's not too many series I've played in where you have that feeling.
90% of the province was in front of their TV set. They were waiting to see what will happen tonight.
LaPointe moving in, sacking, shot, scores!
They're a very good team, you know. I mean, you look at Sakic and Sundin, and you know they had a very strong powerhouse type forwards, and we knew that we had to play well defensively more so if we had a chance of beating them out.
Young scores! Scott Young in overtime has won for the Nordiques.
You know, nobody was happy after the first 2 games. There was definitely urgency, panic, doubts, definitely.
It would have been very easy for Jacques saying, okay, Patrick, you lost your first 2 games in Quebec. You had your chance. I'm going with a young guy. And no, he did the opposite. He got me in. He said, listen, I'm going to live and die with you.
After Game 2 in Quebec City, former goalie Daniel Bouchard, who was the goalie coach for the Nordiques, said, on the record, we found a soft spot in Patrick style. Bad thing to say.
Oh, it was a mistake. Big time. He's got so much confidence as it is. You know, you don't need to rev him up or wake up the giant.
I know Patrick a lot. Like, I played a lot of games and I travel with him a lot, and he's somebody that you just definitely don't want to get into his head.
We'll reconvene at the Forum in 2 days, and the Canadiens with the heat on them.
You know, the pressure was mounting. There was no expectation at that point where everyone was like, you know, Quebec's going to beat us 4 straight.
But what kept us in line, I think, it was Serge Savard. I was shocked to see how calm he was. Everybody gave up on us. The papers were just ripping us. But Serge was calm.
Coming from Mr. Savard, coming from Jacques Demers, our coach, like, you know what, they believe in us. We just need that little break that's gonna change everything.
The Montreal Canadiens are led by Patrick Roy. Many people are frustrated with his play. They say he's let in a couple of soft goals, but Canadiens coach Jacques Demers was emphatic. He is staying with Patrick Roy.
There's a time where you need someone in your corner and saying, you know what, I'm with you, show me. I know you're capable, you know how good you are, do it. It was clear in my mind, I didn't want to let him down after what he said to me. I wanted to have the best game in my playoff.
I knew that Ron Extall had that little thing that he would kind of crossed the circle in the middle of the ice.
In Montreal, Mario Roberge was standing at that dot all the time.
Ron Hextall and Mario Roberge got together there. Now, Roberge skated out to center ice and took his spot right at the center ice faceoff circle. Hextall gave him the knee a couple of times, like right there. Roberge gave him a stick back in the pads. All of this happening during the pregame warm-up.
I wanted to make sure that Mario didn't move from that circle, that didn't allow him to do that.
Hextall wasn't very happy with that.
I think he was more trying to get into his head than anything else.
But he wasn't the same after that.
Muller shoots, scores!
I have a strong feeling, I feel very strong about it. If Pagé had a switch goaltender, after those 2 games and put Fizet in the net, I don't know if the outcome of the series would have been the same.
This is a tough position for me to be in. I mean, I'm not a goalie expert at all, but there was some goals I think we probably wanted back.
Dog Moose, nice move, shooting right on, they score!
And Hextall's wild again. Hextall going after McCreary big time.
As soon we won that 3rd game in overtime, I'm like, you know what? The hope, the positive, everything's coming back. And more we feel Patrick Roy like in his zone.
The series against Quebec was, for me, the key moment in that year. I mean, probably for my career in Montreal.
Well, quite a turnaround. Montreal 4 straight. Patrick Roy, a hero.
It was a good feeling because, I mean, for many reasons, but I mean, Boston got beat by Buffalo. I'm not saying that we didn't want to play Boston, but I mean, the top team during the season was the Bruins, and they got beat and ended up playing Buffalo, and we thought we were a good matchup for them.
Here come the Canadiens. Dirk Muller shot scores! Canadiens win the series in 4 straight.
Patrick Roy was all world. Every game was 4-3, so we still were able to solve some of the riddle of Patrick Roy, but in those moments, I mean, his legacy is cemented in being that big game, big moment player.
You always had the feeling Montreal was going to win. They gave you the feeling that they were a touch better.
We had 4 good lines. We were able to rely on everybody, but we knew that Patrick was borderline cocky, and he knew that he would stop those pucks, and it made us feel like we were invincible.
We were favorite, we were a better team than Buffalo, but we were that much better.
What boyhood dreams on the backyard rink are made of. Game 7 in a Stanley Cup playoff series.
Pittsburgh was a strong team at the time. They won in 91, they won in 92, they had 2 cups in 2 years, and it was Mario's best years. They were very, very powerful.
You can always say you don't care who you face, but at that point, Pittsburgh was a pretty explosive, pretty talented hockey team. But like anybody, if you had your choice, I think the Islanders was a better matchup for us than Pittsburgh.
At that time, we stayed at a hotel every night, whether it was on the road or at home. And so, the momentum, we're with each other the whole time. And I still remember when the Islanders, won.
We're all in our room watching the game, and Volek scores in overtime.
Volek shoots, scores! David Volek, Islanders! And they'll be a new Stanley Cup champion in 1993!
We all come bouncing into the hallways, and we're all looking at each other like, they just knocked off Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh was arguably the best team that was ever assembled. And the fact we got past them, I have no idea how we did it.
It started to dawn on us that we have a good shot at this.
It was the perfect storm for Montreal that year. All the right teams were done. If Pittsburgh played Montreal, I don't know if Patrick Roy had an answer for Mario Lemieux and his group.
I know one thing, it would have been a good challenge for both teams, but unfortunately for them, they were not there.
Well, this is an improbable matchup in the Wales Conference Final. The Montreal Canadiens and the New York Islanders are both third-place clubs who seem powered by destiny.
I don't even know what his goals against was, but you couldn't score on him, and I couldn't make a mistake. And every time we went to overtime, I did. They beat us, and they were a team of destiny.
The
We felt really good. We felt unstoppable at that point.
Montreal is rocking as we get set for Game 1 of the 1993 Stanley Cup.
You know, playing against LA, playing against Wayne Gretzky, you know, the best player ever. And, you know, for young kids like me, it was like, wow.
Game 1, we were kind of flat. We were sitting around for a week, and they had momentum. They're coming in off the Game 7, big win, Toronto. They came in and took that right into Game 1. And Wayne was, you know, probably the best player on the ice that night.
It was always very intimidating to play against him, and I think the first game we were all, you know, watching.
What most people don't remember, Wayne accidentally scored the game's first goal on me. He tipped it in our net.
I really felt, I don't know what the right word is when I scored my own net, but kind of wanted to redeem myself.
Whenever Gretz got mad, I was the happiest guy in North America because I just knew something good was going to happen.
Gretzky toyed with us tonight. He did what he wanted. The Kings deserved the win. They outplayed us. They came in here on a high, and they continue it. So we have no excuse at all.
The series, it hinged on Game 2. LA won the first game. They were in control of the second game, late in the third period. And that's when poor Marty McSorley gets called for an illegal stick.
A stick measurement has been called. It's the stick of Marty McSorley.
Jacques had the balls to make the call, but, you know, you're never 100% sure.
That was do or die. There was no question about it. That was desperation. We had to win that game going out to LA.
Do you imagine if this stick was legal? I think we're done. Remember, Jacques, the stick? McSorley? Yeah, against LA?
Oh, yeah.
That was your call with the cap.
You still think we're cheating?
A stick measurement has been called. It's the stick of Marty McSorley.
I mean, it was a rule book since game 1. Was it the right thing to do? I mean, for me, yes.
Guy Carbonneau and Kirk Muller came to me and said, Jacques wants Marty's stick measured.
We felt pretty confident about the decision of calling an illegal stick.
McSorley was a key player for that team. He was on the ice with 2 minutes left. The situation was perfect.
And I remember when they grabbed it was almost confusing. For them to call it, you kind of in your mind, you're going, okay, what's going on here?
And I'll never forget the look on Marty's face. The blood sort of drained from it. He handed me the stick and I looked at it and I said, Marty, what are you thinking?
McSorley is crushed, but he knew that stick was illegal.
I said, Kerry, this is garbage and you know it.
Gretzky was standing right at the edge of the referee's crease. I showed him how the gauge slid without touching. All Wayne did is roll his eyes, threw his head back, skated away.
There's the illegal stick, Harry. There's no excuse for that.
I was shocked that they called it because players know you don't call a stick unless you absolutely know.
It was kind of dirty the way the Montreal Canadiens found his stick. The security guard took the stick, looked at the stick, they actually identified what stick it was, and when they actually wanted it at that time, they called him.
A security guard would wheel them into a back hallway where guys might have access to them.
Everybody in the media knows 2 of their players in their locker room measured everybody's stick on our team.
I don't need to see a stick rack in the room. It never happened. I could see the stick on the ice. To me, that's all I need to know.
No, we wouldn't do that. I've never been asked to check other team sticks, and no, that was so obvious.
What I would do is have 6 sticks on the bench. 3 illegal sticks that I like because the curve was good and the feel was good, and I had 3 legal sticks for the last 15 minutes of the game if we were up.
I will take responsibility for using an illegal stick, but the risk of calling it was removed.
I think they looked at our sticks. I think that's pretty well proven.
They will never admit it, but I know it to be true.
Do I want the truth to be out there? Yeah, absolutely.
It caught us and costed us the Stanley Cup. If it was my situation, I'd had faith that my team would have found a way to win.
I'd respond by saying you shouldn't have an illegal stick deep into a game when it can be called.
But at that point, I'm not thinking that's a big mistake. I'm thinking, kill it off.
6 against 4, so we can take back the magic that we haven't got the choice.
There's 2 moves that he made that were gutsy. Is to call the stick And then to pull the goalie right away and go for it.
Desjardins shot. They have tied it.
I knew in the intermission we were in trouble.
Well, there was a lot of emotion. You know, we just got tied. Very intense, because your emotions just completely switched over. Like, we were calm, cool, collected. You know, we all thought we were going to kill that penalty off. They score on it. Now we're going into overtime.
We were having a lot of conflict. I recall Wayne getting very mad, Marty defending himself. A lot of people had things to say.
Gretz was angry and sour. Kelly was absolutely right. It was chaotic.
Because, you know, doesn't matter what happened, doesn't matter how the goal went in, doesn't matter why it went in, doesn't matter why the penalty was called. We still have to go and be ready to play overtime.
The short side there is again. Towards Desjardins. And the Canadiens win in overtime. And the series is a brand new one.
Just prior to the release is when I knew I was in trouble. And so when the puck went in, I think you can tell by my reaction that I knew he fooled me.
Loaded for excitement at the Great Western Forum in Inglewood between Montreal and Los Angeles.
Both games in LA were really good games, and then both games went to overtime.
Like, yeah, we're going in overtime. Why we're so happy? Because everything started with a goalie.
He'd stand up and say, "Okay, guys, score whenever you want because they're not scoring on me." And we're like, "Hey, don't wake this guy up."
If you're the goaltender of your team, if you have your heads between your legs, everybody sees it. It makes everybody nervous. It was important for me to have my teammates saying, "Okay, we're fine, he's there."
John LeClair, the Montreal Canadiens have won their 9th consecutive overtime game.
Johnny LeClair picked a hell of a time to become a great player. He was on one of those roles.
Every time we went into overtime, I had a great feeling because I'm thinking it's going to turn. Nobody wins this often in this way. History has proven that you don't do it.
LeClair from the back and in. He scores! John LeClair, for the second consecutive game, has given the Canadiens an overtime win. Their 10th overtime win in a row.
The way we were running as a team, it wasn't like an individual like, "Oh my God, I scored in overtime" kind of thing. It was like we won again, and it was why we were so successful.
To win 10 overtime games? That's crazy.
It's insane when you think about it. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see that again.
3 straight overtime wins. The Kings were deflated.
I remember that day, I woke up in the morning and I said to myself, tonight, you're gonna be a Stanley Cup champion.
I really felt once we jumped on the ice that it was our series to finish.
These fans are beginning to realize the Stanley Cup could be at center ice when this game ends.
Having a chance to win on your own ice was something pretty amazing.
In Montreal, it was huge. I'm still thinking about that last minute. Crowd goes nuts, and then it's loud, and there's a lot of excitement.
24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sometimes they say it's really tough to lose here in Montreal, but it's the best place to win.
I played for 18 years, and I remember more about that season than any other season that I played.
It was the most gratifying, satisfying team that I had ever played on.
It's been a long road. New coach, few trades, and we put all the pieces together in one.
It's about the pride and to be a winner. That's why I'm playing hockey.
Look at Jacques. How's that feel, Jocko?
25 ans. 25 years, huh, Coach?
He said that we were going to shock the world.
That brought us together, and we believe to each other. We have a big part of that. 25 years. We still make history.